The Green Goblin said it best when he said, in spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother? Today we're going to be talking about Pete Buttigieg. We're going to be talking about two articles. One regarding Buttigieg's stunt around June 12th, like almost 2 weeks ago, and one that is happening just a day ago. Before we go into the articles, go ahead and go to carlosredvids.com so you can, if you would like to support my work. There's options for $1 up to $50 now. You can choose whether or not you want to donate. But at the same time, I encourage you to become a member anyways by signing into the website. It's incredibly secure, and you can chat with other members as well. But the first article we're going to talk about Pete Buttigieg is Pandering Pete Buttigieg. This article is from fitnews.com, and it was published 2 weeks ago on June 12th of 2019. The title reads, Pandering Pete Buttigieg. Jerry Maguire loved the black people. He was, in fact, Mr. Black People. The fictitious sports agent portrayed by Tom Cruise breathlessly extolled his love for people of color, literally screaming it over the phone in one of his iconic scenes from the 1996 Cameron Crowe film. Don't look now, but the 2020 Democratic presidential campaign is starting to resemble that scene, with even less subtlety if you can imagine. Desperate to appeal to minority voters, Democratic candidates are starting to make fools of themselves. Take Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who has positioned himself among the top tier of challengers for former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden with his peppy progressivism. One of the surprise frontrunners for the Democratic nomination, Buttigieg would be absolutely crushing it right now in this race, were it not for his campaign's ongoing failure to win over black voters. The answer to this problem? Pandering. Buttigieg was on the Showtime late night program This Is in Mero recently, appearing in a scene in which he chugs liquor from a bottle wrapped in a brown paper bag on the streets of the Bronx with two co-hosts. "Oh my goodness, this stuff is good," Buttigieg exclaimed upon taking his first swig of the bottled whiskey. "Keep it low in case the cops go by," one of the hosts warned. "They be tripping at the end of the mouth, bro." Frankly, Buttigieg is the one who be tripping if he thinks this stunt is going to win him minority support. There's a cell phone. This is literally cellophane transparent. Noted C. Douglas Golden of Western Journal. This is what you do when you're trying to join a frat, not run for president. We agree. Trader was even harsher. Pete Buttigieg has entered the race for the cringiest candidate of 2020 by pandering to low-income voters by day drinking a 40 out of a paper bag, Jairo Vera tweeted. Look, we get that it's important for aspiring leaders to be able to relate to the people that they hope to govern, and that an inability to do so can be very serious repercussions on their upward political mobility. Never discount the extent in which 2016 Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton damaged her electoral prospects after attempting unsuccessfully to pour a craft beer for herself at Pearl Street Brewery in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Clinton's pour was all foam. People and voters in the Badger State took notice. Still, there's a critical distinction between relating to voters and pandering to them. A balance between appearing connected to everyday Americans and shamelessly insulting their intelligence. Buttigieg apparently doesn't grasp this distinction, and as a result is having all sorts of trouble striking the right balance. As a result, we suspect black voters will continue to reject them. Ultimately, Jerry Maguire proved he really did love black people. Well, one black person, though, through hard work, unflinching honesty, and providing value to his employer. Imagine if candidates who for elected office in America decided to pull all the identity politics nonsense to bed and focus on outcomes like that for a change. Now, there's an article from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, June 12th. That'll be like around, almost 2 weeks ago. Now, when it came to this article, it came with a lot of controversy. People were criticizing Buttigieg because he basically played on stereotypes. He was basically saying that, this is offensive, that this is not right. Not to mention, he was doing this in front of a park. And the two co-hosts were well aware that what they were doing could get them in trouble in terms with the law. That's why he told them, hide it from the cops. That's why he put it in a paper bag and they're drinking in front of a park. That drew a lot of controversy. But this is a big problem because we're going to start seeing a lot of the Democratic candidates start to pander to us in a way that we've never seen before. They will start doing things out of the norm, things that they've never done before, in order to look hip and cool, kind of like that cool dad. Not that cool dad, but kind of like those parents who want to seem cool in front of their children's friends, kind of like that. Buttigieg right here drew a lot of controversy. And the reason why I started off with the quote from the Green Goblin from Spider-Man, from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, when I say this, in spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother? That is because, as of yesterday, Pete Buttigieg's own city, South Bend, Indiana, has landed with a lot of controversy. Black Lives Matter activists stormed Buttigieg and criticized him for not firing the police, who apparently got into a lot of trouble with a person of African American descent. The article's from The Atlantic, but this is to show you, this is 2 weeks, and this is how, when I say the left eats itself, it is not a joke. No matter what you do, you are going to get attacked, you are going to get harassed, you are going to be targeted when the time comes. So when Buttigieg was pandering to the African American community in such a very embarrassing way, now 2 weeks later, I'm sorry, not even less than 2 weeks later, almost like a week and 6 days, almost 2 weeks later, guess what happens? Now now he's a target. He's being scrutinized. He's being criticized. But I'm sorry, but I thought Buttigieg was a man who was hip. He was cool with the black people, right? He was really chill, right? I mean, obviously, when he did something like this, he's definitely showing that he's chill, right? That he's chill with the black people and the black community. And now the black community is after Buttigieg. So how ironic is that? You pander to the people you so-called are down with. That's what you say. But now your very own people in your own city, your very own black community in South Bend, Indiana, is going after you for not doing enough action when it comes to the police in South Bend, Indiana. Just from yesterday, it's from The Atlantic, and the title reads, Pete Buttigieg crash course in crisis. The metaphor was so obvious, even cliche, but it was also inescapable as Pete Buttigieg was driving here from Columbia for a town hall late Saturday afternoon. Huge dark clouds moved into the sunny sky and a cold wind started blowing through the heat. We're hoping to beat the rain, Buttigieg told me over the phone, looking out the window as the crowd and I were waiting for him to arrive. It looks like something biblical is happening here. The South Bend, Indiana mayor has had the most charmed rise of any 2020 candidate. Given the leaps he's made from an obscure small city mayor to a top-tier presidential contender, he is arguably one of the most charmed political ascents ever in American politics. Yet there's been no charm to the past week of his campaign. Back home, a white police officer's fatal shooting of a black man armed with a knife has exploded years of built-up racial tension in the city. And for all the people nationally nationally who've been dazzled by his knack for offering answers that seem to fit problems like puzzle pieces, the voters back home don't seem satisfied by what the mayor has come up with so far. When you're in charge of the city, you know that any given day things can come up and will come up that you have to answer for. First as mayor, and then also in the context of the campaign. He told me he was never expecting the worst case scenario of the past week to actually happen though. Running for president means means running to be the one who gets stuck dealing with the nation's worst crises. I asked him how the shooting and its aftermath have affected his thinking about sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office. You're handling an incredibly difficult situation when you've got a grieving family looking to you for answers and accountability. You got a police department looking to you for leadership, he said. You got to step into that way that shows you are not thrown, you're not rattled, that you care, and that no matter how much you care, it's not going to throw you from taking the time to do the work and understand what's at stake. You learn from everything that happens, and you especially learn from tough times, Buttigieg added. This has given me already a different grasp of what's at stake and an issue that should be talked about by presidential candidates. Buttigieg has pitched himself as a mayor who has to provide actual solutions for his constituents, not just talk about problems. But many in the city's black community in particular have protested his response to the shooting. He has noted that he's not legally allowed to fire police officers, as some voters have urged him to do, though he said he plans to request a Justice Department review of what happened. Under pressure, he admitted he doesn't know whether officials will agree to take it up. Local leaders complain that Buttigieg is paying the price now for not investing more effort over time in police reform and community building, and that much of the outrage tracks back to the firing of an African-American police chief in his first term. The crisis, exacerbated by rage at the officer apparently not having his mandated body camera turned on, and that the police officer for taking the victim, 50-year-old Eric Logan, to the hospital in the back of his police car instead of calling an ambulance, wasn't helped by Buttigieg's decision at the beginning of last week to meet with the police for more time than he spent with his family. Some in the community saw the move as prioritizing law enforcement. After spending most of his time outside of South Bend as his White House campaign took off, he spent more consecutive days at City Hall in the past week than he has in months. If not for the shooting, he would have spent a chunk of last week on a glitzy fundraising swing through California that would have included an event at home of Hollywood included an event at home of the Hollywood power agent and mega donor Michael Kives, or Michael Keeves, I don't know how to pronounce that. So-called champion tickets were going for $2,800 a piece, and advocate tickets for $1,000, according to an invitation forwarded to me. Buttigieg's Saturday as a presidential candidate and his Sunday as a mayor couldn't have been more different. He got huge cheers as he took the stage at the South Carolina Democratic Party convention in Columbia, and the crowd quietly listened as he reflected on Logan's death. It is as if one member of a family died at the hands of another, Buttigieg said with solemnity, and he said he knows why such deep wounds are surfacing in South Bend, because before he glided into his practice stump speech, the bridge, in parentheses, the bridge when a city is challenged, when the city is challenged, just as when a nation is challenged, the most important thing you can fall back on is on your values. A few hours later, he ran onto the stage, microphone in hand, as the crowd at his campaign town hall cheered, and he was mobbed afterward by people asking for selfies and hoping he'd autograph the copies of his memoir. The next day, Buttigieg was booed and shouted at while sitting on stage in a high school gym in South Bend, his hometown, by the way, where he and the police chief held a town hall. One man yelled that Buttigieg seemed like he had to run back to South Carolina instead of doing his job here. The mayor told the crowd he accepts responsibility for what happened. His administration runs the police department. His administration had bought the body cameras. By the time he spoke to reporters afterward, there were tears in his eyes. Dude broke. He really broke. He was emotionally broken. He talks, if you look at his interviews, I'm going to take a break right here though. If you look at his interviews, town halls, Fox News, CNN, if you look at his interviews, he seems very calm. He seems very collected. He seems like, he knows what he's talking about. He seems like nothing will stump the dude. He seems like nothing will, literally stop his movement. But his own town made him cry. His own town made the dude snap. The guy who seems like he can speak like butter, smooth as butter, made him as rigid as a rock. Are you serious? Seriously, Buttigieg, you can't even handle your own town. That's really embarrassing. Your own town is booing you because you're not doing anything about this. But for the most part, public and privately, Buttigieg has tried to respond to the shooting with the same calm and analytic approach that in other circumstances found outside South Bend have found so appealing. But that critics feel can come off as the detached someone who should do something air of a McKinsey management consultant, which Buttigieg briefly was in his 20s. When I asked him on Saturday about the shooting, he said, "I really believe that if we don't conquer racial inequity in my lifetime, it may be the thing that unravels the American project in my lifetime." Still, when he was asked by a voter at his campaign town hall what his biggest surprise has been on the job, he said learning how to manage the plows during the big snowstorm that hit on his first day as mayor 8 years ago. Is this something that had an impact on our campaign, on me personally, and most importantly on my community? Buttigieg told me in an interview. There is a reminder that things come at you that you can't always fully prepare for and can't anticipate, and you need to be ready for that, especially as you're competing for the toughest job in the world. It's exceptionally serious compared to most things that we've dealt with, and of course, it is different when you have national attention. Buttigieg added, learning that some community members want to use the attention from his campaign to make sure that the city handles the shooting's fallout in the right way. They're basically saying, we have to get this right, not only for us, but because everyone is watching, he said. This all comes as Buttigieg has been struggling to attract the African American support. Again, previous article, Pandering P. Buttigieg stated this. He's having trouble pandering and getting support of the African American community, and this is only gonna hurt him. Sorry. So let's start with the paragraph again. This all comes as Buttigieg has been struggling to attract African American support of the more than 350 people who come to his campaign town hall on Saturday. The majority appears to be white. The crisis is also unfolding in the middle of the most intense 2 weeks of the primary campaign so far, with major state party political events and a Planned Parenthood forum over the weekend in South Carolina. The first debates this week and a fundraising deadline on June 30th. In his campaign hopes he'll meet with an outrageously high number. The fundraising events he missed in California likely could have netted him a few $100,000, if not more. Between a debate prep and big dollar fundraisers, Buttigieg has been flying back to South Bend on a charter plane. A few hours after he landed from South Carolina, there was another shooting in South Bend, this time at a bar with 10 people injured and one person killed. Seriously, dude, like, you have a lot of problems in your town. What the heck is going on? Like, you gotta be kidding me. First a cop. I'm not gonna say for racial reasons, but first you have a cop shooting a man of African American descent, who was African American. Instead of calling an ambulance, he takes him to the hospital himself in the back of his police car. And now you have shooting at a bar. 10 people are injured and one person is killed. Seriously, Buttigieg, what kind of city are you running? And this is the quote that stuns me, and I think this one has a point, and I think this one is like the cream of the crop of the statement. This is a quote. This is from Oliver Davis, who was a South Bend councilman. He says, "One of the reasons why most mayors don't run for president is because the heat gets put on them," said Oliver Davis, a South Bend councilman who has been a local leader on policing issues and who, in the past week, has become one of the main sources for reporters of quotes challenging Buttigieg's leadership. "There is no magical speech that can solve this," Davis told me. "This is a president is going to be dealt with on his watch." A sliver of Buttigieg's earlier luck has stayed with him. All week long, cable segments about South Bend were bumped by once on Joe Biden's comments about working with segregationists in the Senate, according to people I spoke with who were on cable news said in recent days. And the rain in North Augusta held off long enough for Buttigieg to finish his speech and all his selfies. But what Buttigieg is facing here is nowhere near over. The anger has only grown. The police review hasn't happened yet. He's expecting months of lawsuits ahead, and the real action of the presidential campaign is only just beginning. When you run for president, there's things that can happen that will either make your campaign or break your campaign. Buttigieg, he's struggling to get support from the African American community. This article is proof of it. He's really scraping the bottom of the barrel. He's doing things that could potentially land him in political trouble. Like I said, when you're drinking alcohol in front of a park, that's a problem. You're drinking out of a paper bag, as in this case, you're hiding it. The 2-0 said, don't make sure the cops don't see you. So when you're saying the cops don't see you, you're basically saying that you're intentionally breaking the law. 2 weeks later, the black community has literally told Buttigieg, do something about this. Whether or not the police did it out of racial motivations, or maybe because, the person who unfortunately died because of the shooting was causing some problems or had a criminal record, that I do not know and I'm not going to assume. But the black community is outraged in South Bend, Indiana. They want Buttigieg to solve the problem, and he's not doing anything about this. Like I said, his interviews ever since then, ever since before this, he talks as smooth as butter. Any answer he comes up with, he comes up with an answer in a snap of his fingers. That's how fast the dude is. That's how much of a smooth talker he is. But now his own town has broken him. He's struggling to find a solution. His speeches are very hesitant. If you want to look up on YouTube of Buttigieg dealing with a Black Lives Matter activist group in his own town. The Buttigieg that we see on the news talking about how we need to do this, we need to do that, without a single stutter. In his own hometown, he's stuttering. He can't come up with an answer. His own town stumped and broke him. They literally broke him. He can't come up with a solution. And I think that when it comes to the councilman Oliver Davis, he does have a point. When you're a mayor of a city, you're looking out for your city. And when you're running for president, you kind of basically have to prioritize one way or the other. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Buttigieg has failed in terms of, pandering to the African American community? Are you expecting to see more Democratic candidates pandering to the different minority communities such as Hispanics, like Chinese, Japanese? Do you expect them to see pandering of this level like Buttigieg? You expect to see candidates going to Mexican communities wearing sarapes and sombreros and order to say, "Hey, ese, I'm like you, fool." Is that what you expect from them? Or do you expect them to start relating to us? Not because, I'm not saying they should be drinking beer out of a bottle in a paper bag. No, but saying, I relate to you, I came from this, I came from a similar environment, that type of relativity. Do you think that Pete Buttigieg's campaign is done, even though the debates are tomorrow? And yes, as I record the video there tomorrow, I'm gonna watch them, and I'm expecting to see a lot of things to be brought to the table. But do you think that this incident is gonna detract Buttigieg from his campaign? Because again, he is mayor. Just because he is running for president doesn't excuse him from fulfilling his responsibilities as mayor of South Bend, Indiana. So do you think that dealing with this issue is gonna derail his campaign and possibly even cost him the nomination for actually winning the nomination for the Democrats? Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share the video. That does help a lot, as well as like it. It helps me in the algorithm when it comes to YouTube and it comes to the search results. Again, visit my website, check out the forum, try it out, let me know how it works. That way, if there's some problems, I can modify them. That way, it can be a more streamlined system. And I'll be uploading another article as well later today. But let me know what you guys think. Would you have voted for Buttigieg? Are you surprised that Buttigieg hasn't come up with an answer despite pandering to the African American community? Let me know what you guys think. Until next time, you guys have a good rest of the day.